Whoever drops a coin for me trades their destiny for my life.
Every coin tossed into Malachi's bowl disappeared before morning. Not stolen, not spent. Gone, as if the earth itself had swallowed them whole. He sat at the corner of Adeola Street for 11 years, dusty agbada, clouded eyes, a wooden bowl worn smooth by 1,000 palms. People called him Old Blind Malachi, the harmless beggar who smiled with too many teeth. Mothers pointed him out to teach children about charity. Market women dropped 50 naira notes into his bowl without looking twice. None of them noticed that he was never actually blind. He watched everything. Malachi had a gift, or rather a curse he had willingly swallowed. 30 years ago, deep in the Okomu forest, he had knelt before an altar of blackened iron and made a transaction the devil himself would have envied. He offered his soul in exchange for something more precious to him, power over the destinies of men. The price was simple. He had to collect offerings, coins, notes, anything pressed into his palm by willing hands, and return them to the altar by midnight. Every gift freely given became a key to the giver's future, and Malachi turned every luck against them. Take Emeka, the young architect who dropped 1,000 naira note into the bowl one Tuesday morning, whistling because he had just won a major contract. By Friday, the contract was terminated without explanation. His designs began failing. Structures that should have stood collapsed in drawings. Within 8 months, Emeka was packing his bags, leaving Lagos with nothing but a suitcase and a confusion he couldn't name. Malachi had placed Emeka's note on the altar and whispered 3 words over it. 3 words, and a man's career evaporated like morning dew. Or consider Mrs. Adeze, a businesswoman sharp as a blade, who gave Malachi 200 naira every Thursday out of routine generosity. She never noticed that her imports began disappearing at customs, that her business partner began stealing in amounts too clever to prove, that every deal she signed somehow mysteriously turned to dust. After 2 years of Thursday generosity, Adeze lost everything she had built in 15 years. She blamed the economy. She blamed her enemies. She never once thought about the beggar on the corner. That was Malachi's greatest weapon, invisibility. People never suspect the hand they've shown kindness to. His cruelty was surgical. He didn't destroy people quickly. Quick destruction drew attention. He unraveled them slowly, a thread here, a thread there, until the entire fabric of a life came apart, and the person sat staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering where everything went wrong. He feasted on that confusion. On the altar, he kept 53 clay pots, 1 for each active victim, and inside each pot, a person's destiny rotted like fruit left in the sun. He had made a policeman go mad, made a pastor lose his faith and his family in the same month, made a young woman who had once given him her last 20 naira lose 3 pregnancies in a row, doctors finding no medical explanation whatsoever. For 11 years, Malachi fed the altar, and the altar fed him back, with long life, with protection, with the ability to move through the city like smoke. Then came the night everything cracked open. A woman named Sola, a forensic accountant with insomnia and a habit of walking at midnight, saw him, not sitting, moving, fast, too fast for a blind man, too purposeful for a beggar. She followed him 3 blocks east, then watched him descend into what looked like an abandoned telephone exchange building. Sola was not a reckless woman. She took photographs on her phone and went home. But the photographs wouldn't open the next morning. The files were corrupted, every single one, replaced with a black image with a single red smear in the center that looked disturbingly like a handprint. Sola, to her credit, was not deterred. She was made of the kind of steel that doesn't bend easily. She contacted Pastor Iheoma, a deliverance minister known in 3 states, and a retired detective named Balogan, who had spent 20 years investigating crimes that didn't make sense on paper. The 3 of them began building a case the way you build a fire, carefully, patiently, from the edges inward. They interviewed Emeka, they found Adeze, they collected testimonies from 14 people in a 6-block radius of Adeola Street, 14 people whose lives had collapsed after giving money to old blind Malachi. The pattern was undeniable, the timeline was damning. Balogan set up a camera across the street, hidden in a generator housing. For 6 nights, nothing. On the 7th night, there. Malachi arose from his corner at exactly 11:22 p.m., bowl in hand, moving through the dark streets with the stride of a healthy man half his apparent age. The camera tracked him all the way to the abandoned building. What happened next, even Balogan struggled to write in his report. They went in at midnight, Sola, Balogan, Pastor Iheoma, and 3 church elders carrying things that had nothing to do with the Nigerian police force. The smell hit them first, something ancient and biological, like a forest floor that had never seen sunlight. The altar was real. 53 clay pots arranged in a perfect circle, blackened iron at the center, stained with years of use. Malachi knelt before it, his back to them, whispering in a language that sounded like it was being spoken backward. He sensed them before they spoke. He turned, and his eyes, those eyes he had hidden behind a performance of blindness for 11 years, were the color of old fire, gold bleeding into red. He smiled with too many teeth. "You brought yourselves to me. How generous." What happened next lasted 47 minutes. Balogan's report listed it as a confrontation and apprehension. Pastor Iheoma's account was considerably more detailed and considerably more terrifying. Pots moving without being touched, a sound of screaming coming from inside the walls, Malachi convulsing and speaking in multiple voices simultaneously as the prayers pressed in on whatever had taken residence inside him. When it was over, Malachi was on the floor, old, suddenly completely, devastatingly old, as if 11 years of borrowed time had returned all at once to collect their debt. The pots were destroyed, all 53. In the weeks that followed, 14 people reported strange reversals in their lives. Emeka got a call from a firm in Abuja. Adeze's stolen funds were traced and partially recovered. A woman who had lost 3 pregnancies carried her 4th to full term. Malachi was arrested, tried, and convicted on charges that the court could legally name: fraud, conspiracy, possession of materials linked to criminal activity. He died in custody 4 months later, aged, hollow, and utterly alone. They found one more thing in that building, a 54th pot, sealed, unlabeled, and whatever's inside it still moving. Nobody has opened it yet.